We are naturally curious. Curiosity is what brought humankind to where we are today. And I'd argue that we're becoming less curious. And I blame it on the education system. This would be when I was 10. I was a magician. When I was 12, I was a DJ. And then at 13, I opened Photoshop for the first time, and it was so difficult, I cried. But at 14, I was a photographer. Then, when I was 17, I was just a student. Because you are what you do every day. And I was so busy studying, I had no time to learn. To learn to be a photographer, to learn to be a DJ, or to learn to be a magician. And as a student, with so low motivation, especially after being forced to learn these things, being forced to just study instead of actually learning what I'm curious about, my motivation and my drive for learning was at an all-time low. I didn't know what to do. I felt nostalgic on my past self, the one that loved learning. And don't get me wrong, I still wanted to learn so many things, but because I was so demotivated, I just didn't know how to do that. So I went out and I researched. And the more that I researched, the more that I found. I found that I wasn't alone. I found that other people are experiencing very similar things to what I am. And not only that, I also found myself in really good company. Albert Einstein, the one and only, said it is in fact nothing short of a miracle that modern methods of instruction have not yet entirely strangled the holy curiosity of inquiry, essentially saying it is a miracle that curiosity survives the education system. Sir Ken Robinson, in the most viewed TED Talk of all time, says we do not grow into creativity, we grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it. So me at 17, with a motivation all-time low, even to the point where I just wanted to drop out, but I didn't, for one simple reason. My mom said no. And when your mom says no, that's that. But I did ask myself two questions then. Okay, I'm here now, but let's make the most of it. I asked myself two questions. The first, the first one is, how would I redesign the system from the ground up? How would it look like? The second is, how can I, in the situation that I am in today, make that change happen? Let's take a look at those one by one. If I were to redesign it from the ground up, how would it look like? Well, to answer that question, first you need to look into what the education system is for. I'd argue it's to prepare people for the future. And if we know one thing for sure about the future, is that it's going to be changing. So how can we prepare people for a future that is going to always be changing? Well, I'll tell you how. By making sure they will always be learning, that they will always be on their feet and can learn the new developments that happen. But how can they do that if they go to school and learning isn't fun? Why would you do something that you're trained to think isn't fun in your free time? It doesn't make any sense. And then we wonder why students ask, will this be on the test? Because we keep motivating them with extrinsic punishments and rewards and expecting them to then want to learn from within themselves. If you want people to learn within themselves, they need to be intrinsically motivated from within. And there's an interesting theory behind intrinsic motivation called the self-determination theory, made by Deci and Ryan. It states you need three things for intrinsic motivation. The first is autonomy, the feeling that you are in charge of yourself and of your actions. You have choice. The second is relatedness, the feeling that you are doing things together with others. And the third is competence, that you're actually good at what you're doing. So what if we translate that intrinsic motivation and put it into learning? Imagine a place where you can learn anything you're curious about, autonomy, together with other people, relatedness, through projects that you're actually proud of, competence. Cool, we did it. We solved education. Not quite, because we still haven't done anything. That brings me to the second question. What can I do in the situation that I'm in today to really push for that change, to really make that change happen, no matter how small, even if it's 10 kids, that they will feel that impact? You could maybe protest, talk to teachers. But what I did was I started an after-school club called Curiosity Club, a place where students aged 11 to 15 can come and learn whatever they're curious about through projects together with one another. And wow, was it amazing. When you let kids learn about what they're interested in, they will make amazing stuff. One kid made a whiteboard animation about how trees communicate. I don't know, like he was just interested in it and he went out, researched and created it. Another one, an infographic about how neurons work in the brain. He was just interested, he went and learned. And when you just give the space for kids to nurture their curiosity, something that's in all of us, we're born with it. But if you really nurture that curiosity, learning can be, and really is, a lot of fun. And then I graduated. I didn't drop out. Thank you, Mom. I went traveling for a bit. But I still, in the back of my head, I knew I had something. I knew I had something powerful that could really impact positively a lot of students. So I thought, how can I broaden this impact? Right? If, not only 10, let's get to more. Let's get to more kids. So what if we open in more schools? But now I'm no longer a student. And the power of this really is that it's student run. It's by students for students. So what if I bring this idea and support and resources to a student in high school, and they can run it in their own school? And that's what we did. First in Utrecht, and then also in Rotterdam, and now in 4 different schools. And wow, is it amazing. Every time I hear about the projects that the learners create, I'm blown away. I love it. And it was a journey. It was a journey to get here. And throughout this journey, I met interesting people, interesting groups, and alliances who are all pushing for this change. So the education system, it is changing. It's being pushed. People are pushing for it to change. But it's what? Hundreds, maybe thousands of people out of 8 billion people? That's not enough. It's not enough if we want to change this, if we want to see the change happen in our lifetime. If we want the change to happen fast enough, faster than the world is changing. With 100 people, the education system won't change fast enough because the world is changing faster. So to students, to teachers, to principals, to parents, and especially students, are you going to just watch this change happen slowly? Or are you going to ask yourself 2 questions? How would you design it? And what can you do in the situation that you're in today to make that change happen? Stay curious.